The studio lights blazed down like 1,000 suns, making the polished floor gleam and casting long, dramatic shadows over the contestants. The audience's murmurs crescendoed into a roar as the camera panned to the familiar figure striding onto the stage, Bradley Walsh. His signature grin stretched across his face as he waved to the crowd, his voice booming with that perfectly calibrated mix of charm and mischief. "Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to The Chase," he announced. "Tonight, we've got a contestant who thinks they've got what it takes to beat the chaser. Let's find out, shall we?" In the contestants' corner, a young woman named Emma adjusted her microphone, her palms slick with nervous sweat. She was a math teacher by profession, a trivia enthusiast by passion, and tonight she hoped a hero. She had spent weeks memorizing facts, studying oddities, and even watching past episodes to try to predict the chaser's strategy. But nothing could have prepared her for the chaos about to unfold. The first round started smoothly. Emma answered with a mix of confidence and caution, her voice steady as she tackled questions about world capitals, Shakespearean plays, and obscure historical events. Each correct answer pushed her further ahead, and the audience's applause swelled with every point she racked up. Bradley leaned in slightly, his eyes twinkling with amusement. "You're doing brilliantly, Emma, but remember," he said, lowering his voice just a touch, "the real fun starts when the chaser shows up." And he showed up, he did. The studio lights dimmed dramatically as the unmistakable figure of the chaser approached, towering, imposing, and with a look that could freeze a glacier. He surveyed the stage like a predator sizing up its prey. Emma's heart pounded in her chest. She had always found the chaser intimidating on screen, but seeing him live was a different experience entirely. The chase began. Bradley's questions flew at Emma like sparks from a wildfire, fast, unpredictable, and impossible to ignore. Emma answered with focus and precision, her mind a flurry of facts and logic. The chaser's moves were equally unpredictable, a masterclass in psychological warfare. He shot questions back, each one designed to test not just knowledge, but nerve. Then came the moment. Bradley's eyes gleamed with that signature mischievous sparkle. "All right, Emma," he said, pausing for dramatic effect. The audience leaned forward, sensing the tension. "You've done incredibly well so far, but here's a question that might, just might, leave you speechless." Emma's pulse quickened. She nodded, ready for anything. Bradley's voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper, though somehow everyone in the studio could hear it perfectly. Which came first, the chicken or the egg? The audience erupted into a laughter. Emma froze. For a moment, it was as if time itself had paused. Here she was, on the cusp of possibly winning a fortune, and the question wasn't about history, science, or literature. It was about that eternal age-old dilemma. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. Bradley's grin widened, almost predatory. "Take your time, Emma," he said, gesturing dramatically. "Think it through. Science might help, philosophy might help, but only your gut will tell you the truth." Emma's mind raced. She recalled lessons from biology class, debates she'd had with friends, even casual pub arguments. She considered evolution, species, and genetics. She thought about myths, cultural references, and centuries of pondering. And then she thought about Bradley Walsh, smiling, patient, slightly teasing. Her mouth opened. Words failed her. The audience held their breath. Bradley's expression shifted from playful to almost theatrical suspense. Finally, Emma laughed nervously, a little embarrassed, but ready to face the inevitable. I don't know," she admitted, throwing her hands up. Bradley clutched his chest as if she had delivered a punchline directly to his soul. "Speechless!" he exclaimed. "Ladies and gentlemen, I think we've found our winner of the utterly flabbergasted award tonight." The audience roared, clapping and cheering, while Emma tried to regain her composure. Bradley leaned down, lowering his voice to that conspiratorial tone again. "Don't worry, Emma. That question leaves everyone speechless at least once in their life." As the chase continued, the energy in the studio shifted. Emma's initial shock transformed into exhilaration. She realized that the chase wasn't just a test of knowledge, it was a test of poise, creativity, and humor under pressure. Bradley's words, though playful, had given her a strange kind of power, the freedom to laugh, to enjoy, and to embrace the chaos. The final round arrived, and Emma faced the chaser one last time. Her steps were steadier now, her answers faster, sharper. Bradley's quips peppered the air like confetti, lightening the tension. "Don't let him scare you," he called. "Remember, the only thing sharper than his brain is your wit." Emma's confidence surged. She was no longer just a contestant, she was a force to be reckoned with. The chaser's questions were fierce, but Emma's determination burned brighter. In a final breathtaking moment, she correctly answered a particularly tricky series of questions, leaving the chaser blinking in astonishment. Bradley turned to the camera, grinning like a man who had just witnessed something extraordinary. And there you have it, folks. Emma has done the impossible. And she did it all with a sense of humor, a bit of nerve, and maybe, just maybe, a little luck. Emma sank into her chair, breathless, exhilarated, and yes, still slightly speechless. Bradley clapped her on the shoulder. "You were amazing," he said warmly. "Not just for what you did, but for how you handled everything I threw at you." The audience's applause reached a deafening crescendo as confetti rained down. Emma couldn't stop smiling. The chaos, the tension, the questions, the laughter, it had all been worth it. And as she looked at Bradley, still smiling, she realized something. In the end, it wasn't about winning or losing. It was about the thrill of the chase, the joy of the unexpected, and the moments that left you truly speechless. As the cameras faded to a commercial break, Bradley gave one last wink. "Remember," he said, addressing the audience, "life's full of questions that leave you speechless, and sometimes the answer is just to enjoy the ride." Emma laughed, a little breathless, a little triumphant, and completely certain of one thing. She would never forget the night Bradley Walsh left her, truly, utterly, and completely speechless.